me share just a little bit with you about why I feel like I might be qualified to help you with this particular topic. So some of you may know that I and my sister own one of the larger real estate companies in Louisville. But what you probably don't know is that when I retired from the Marine Corps 20 years ago and I came back to Louisville, there were exactly two people in the city of Louisville that if I called them on the phone and I said, hey, it's Dave, they would know who Dave was, and they were not already the client of my sister. Two and only two. And I needed to feed a wife and two kids and build a real estate business. Another thing that may surprise you is in my first 5 years in the real estate business, I got exactly four referrals from someone inside the company, either a family member or whatever. So I built my business the old-fashioned way by prospecting. And I literally built it from zero in July of 2021 to by the end of my fourth year, I had already made 7 figures in gross commission income. And so I do think I have some information to share with you about how to do that. By the way, that's not in 1 year. Okay. But it is a significant business base. And so what I'm going to talk with you about this morning is how you do that. Now, by the same token, some of the things that I'm going to share with you may scare the living bejesus out of you relative to the amount of effort that I believe it takes on a repeated basis to do that. So before we do that, let's take another poll, Tasha, and put the second poll in the field for me, please. By the way, these are anonymous. Nobody will know what your answer was. We're not keeping track of you. I just want to get a sense of my audience. Okay, so if you look at the results of this poll, okay, you're going to notice that the bulk of you are in the, 25 to 75K range as your goal for 2021. Now I'm going to relaunch this poll and I want you to answer the question again for 2022. It says 2021, but just answer it again for 2022. Okay, so not surprisingly, when you look at this, the number of people's range went up a little bit, and we kind of shifted the whole range to the higher end of the scale. Oh, shit. Okay. Now, the good news is there's a couple of good things I want to share with you before we get started. Number one, okay, depending on how much more than that 125 number, okay, all of those I would say are in the reasonably achievable range if you really apply the principles that we're going to talk about in a systematic and disciplined method. Okay. The other thing I'm going to tell you is that it's a math problem. Okay.
It definitely is right now.
All right. If anybody came this morning with the hope that we were not going to be talking about prospecting and that it wasn't going to be a math problem, I hate to disappoint you, but I want to tell you up front, that's what we're going to be talking about, and it's a math problem. Okay? And so let's kind of dig in here for a minute. So first thing is, if I asked some of the group before if they had any specific expectations, concerns, or questions, or they were just curious. So you have a specific question you want to have answered, okay? Please text it into chat so that I can be aware of them, so that if I need to try to answer a specific question, I can do so. Does that make sense? Okay, so why can't I? Oh, that's not good. Okay, so let's just dig right in. So the first thing to understand about every business, every single business in the world is the same in that it is an input being transformed in some way or manner and an output. If I'm at the Ford Motor Company, okay, I take metal and parts, I put them through a process, I put cars out. At the dealership, I put people who have a need for a vehicle and or their trade-ins through a process, and I send sold cars out the door. In the real estate business, okay, the inputs are only prospecting. Everything else we do in the real estate business is transformation. This is one of the hardest things over the years for me to help realtors understand. Okay, the only thing we have control over is the inputs. The only thing we have control over is the amount of effort that we apply on a daily basis to dedicated prospecting. So while I talk through the rest of this transformation process, I'm going to ask Tasha to put a poll in the field. And this is the question. On a daily basis, do you prospect 0 to 30 minutes, 30 minutes to an hour, 1 to 2 hours, or 2 hours or more? So as soon as Tasha gets that up, we'll get the answers to that. Okay. So I've got this input. It's prospecting, it's contacts, it's people that I meet and I talk to. Okay. And then I've got this transformation process. That transformation process is all the steps from there forward. It's the follow-ups, it's the showings, it's the listing presentations or marketing presentations, it's the buyer presentations and consultations, it's sending handwritten notes, it's texts of pictures, it's putting them on drip campaigns, it's all those things that we do. It's the inspections, it's the everything that we do from the first time we meet someone until we get an output is part of that transformation process. Okay. And then the outputs are only 3 things. We're either going to get a closing or we're going to get a rejection or we're going to get a referral. Okay. So basically, if you think about your business and your business model, you're going to meet people, contact people, touch people. You're going to put them into a system. And the only goals that you have are to get either a closing at some point, a rejection, which by the way is as valuable as anything else, or a referral. So the first thing is, if you look at the polling results, and most people have added the poll. If you look at the polling results, can everybody see the polling results? Okay. All right. What you are going to notice is, and this is not uncommon, okay, that 67% of the people in this poll spend less than an hour on a daily basis prospecting. And 30% spend less than 30 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to ask a different question. So Tasha, the question is we're just going to relaunch the same poll. Okay, if you polled the top people in sales in their first 5 years in the business, how much time do you think you would see that they use? So I'm going to relaunch this. You're going to answer the same question. Top people in the business. What do you think they would have done in their first 5 years? Okay. So my first question is this. We have 76% of the people that say 2 hours or more, which, by the way, is the right answer. Your very most successful people in almost all sales professions in their first 5 years in the business average 2 hours or more of prospecting a day. So if that's the case, and we know that, then the question becomes, why do we not do it? So let's just talk about that for a minute or two. Does anybody have any particular, like, let me share this with you first. Okay, I've got some people who've already said, okay, going into my first year, I want to know how to build. Getting started is confusing. What are my first steps? Okay, right? What other things, who can share with me other reasons why we don't think we get this prospecting done on a daily basis?
I think we don't want to waste time in let me rephrase that. In ways that we don't feel is going to be effective. So we don't know the best way to prospect and the right avenue to go about it.
Perfect. So let me say what you just said, Christina, a different way. We're worried we're going to waste time on things that are not going to have a positive outcome. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What other reasons?
I think it's knowing different ways to prospect, because I think some of us are comfortable doing some things, mailing postcards or whatever that is, but maybe just don't really
know other things to do. I mean, you can only mail postcards so often. You can't do that every day. And I know you can hand out business cards and you can do things like that, but I think it's other ways to prospect.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts?
I think we also have a fear of rejection in general.
Okay. We have a fear of rejection. So let's talk about that for a minute. Why do we have a fear of rejection?
I think people are afraid of hearing the word no, Dave.
Okay, so let me tell you why we typically have a fear of rejection. And this is one of the first things that I want to talk to you about. You believe that your conversation is about you. But most often that's because we don't follow a very key principle. So let's talk about this. Okay, first thing is, your job every day, talk to a ton of people. Now, I didn't say ask a ton of people to let you be their realtor. I didn't say call a ton of people and say, do you want to sell a house? Do you want to buy a house? Can I sell you a house? Do you want to buy a house? You want to see a house today? I didn't say that. Okay. All I said is talk to a ton of people. Help the ones who need help. Request permission to stay in contact with the ones who don't need help. And then there's a key component to building your business, which is called the power of two. When you look at the old network marketing models, who's ever been to an MLM, multi-level marketing presentation? Amway, Shack, right? Okay. Okay. They tell you to go out and talk to 2 or 3 people and get them to introduce you to 2 or 3 people, get them in, right? Only what they want you to do is go get 2 or 3 people to be in your business, and then get those 2 or 3 people to refer you to 2 or 3 people who want to be in your business, right? And the first thing we all think is, I don't like that. Who likes that idea? None of you, right? Okay, but if I changed the dynamic completely and I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to build, number one, around yourself, not down. I want to change your dynamic. In the old network marketing model, it's all about building down. Okay? And it has this sense that all those people are supporting you, right? If I'm building around me, then what do I have to be? I have to be the connector of others. I have to be the conduit. I have to be the hub of the wheel. In other words, instead of it now being about me and how everybody else can support me, it's about me being a resource for them. Okay? This is a key component to successfully building your business in a huge way. And there are certain rules. Number one, you share information of value and you never self-promote. Very key component.
Dave, what do you mean by never self-promote?
So, for example, let me give you a classic example. I see people all the time that send out something that says, I just sold this house. The silent message being, look at how great I am.
I'm sorry, Dave, your voice is like really far all of a sudden.
Okay, so what I said was, people send out Facebook posts or postcards or whatever that says, I just sold this house. The subtle message being, look how great I am. Did you hear that, Christina?
Yes, but your voice is still very far. Like I just put my ear closer to my computer.
You
You sound
wonder
normal
what's
to
going
me.
on there. Is that better?
No.
Dave, it's normal to me.
Dave, it's normal to me.
Okay,
No
so
problem
Christina,
here.
it must
Okay.
be something in your speaker, unfortunately. So,
Okay.
but now let's take that exact same message and let's ask ourselves, how could I change it so that it's not self-promotion, although it has a benefit, right? And let's do it this way. I'd like to introduce you to your new neighbors, if they'll let you. Okay? Or I'm so happy for Mr. and Mrs. Jones who just bought their first house. Okay? Or, hey, please say congratulations to my new friends who just closed on their first house. Now, there's no question, there's a little bit of potential promotion for you there, right? But do you see the difference in doing that as opposed to saying, I'm big, I'm bad, I'm great, call Dave? Because nobody cares, okay? They couldn't give two hoots in heck about all that stuff, okay? They don't care. Now, there are nominal points in your career where you're going to be in a selling situation where your experience level or your reputation or your statistics will be a marginal edge. But I have over 700 past clients. And I can tell you that I can count on my fingers and my toes the number of them that hired me because of my stats or because of my personal reputation. Now, some of them I got referred to by someone else because of my performance. That's not the same thing. Does everybody follow me? Let me go back to something Bobby said earlier. You can only send so many postcards. Let me tell you a little secret. Postcards with no follow-up are like throwing dollar bills out the window. Now, I'm not saying none of them will ever have any benefit, because my second year in the business, I got a phone call from someone who hired me off a just sold postcard. And when I got there, it was sitting on the counter. Okay. That year, I sent out about 2,000 just sold postcards. So it was somewhat effective in that particular case. But then when I sat down with the person, what really impressed them was that I sold the house in 3 days, not in this market, but 3 months after 9/11. And then they wanted to know, how did I do that? And then we had a conversation about positioning the property properly, pricing, etc. So these things can become conversation starters, but if you're not doing follow-up, they are not by any stretch the most effective way to build your business from 0 to millions. The number one thing to do to build your business from 0 to millions is exactly what I said in the former slide. It's to get up every day, talk to a lot of people, help the ones who need some help, ask permission to follow up with the others. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Now, there's some key components to this, okay? The next key component being, I've got to be focused on this sharing out from me, distributing out from me, instead of all about what's in it for me, okay? And I'm not in any way, please do not infer, but what I'm getting ready to say, that Christina's question that she asked earlier wasn't typical or inappropriate, because it wasn't. What I will say, though, is it is a somewhat focused question on us. What happens to us when we get early in the business is, depending on how we're trained, what our life experience is, what our mind map is, all these thousands of different things, is we spend our energy focused on what I'm going to call low-hanging fruit. Who can we get in a car and show a house to? Who can we get an appointment with to sell their house? And what I'm going to tell you is that is the exact opposite way to look at the right way to do this business. In my opinion. My opinion is all you want to focus on every day is building relationships, building credibility, building visibility. Because visibility builds credibility, and credibility builds profitability. And relationships are where the power is. Okay? I told you I've got over 700 past clients. What I didn't tell you is that of those 700 past clients, at least a third of them came from 3 or 4 key relationships that I developed in the first 5 years in my career. Now, the problem is I can't tell you how to go develop 4 relationships that are going to be productive. I got no shot. But here's what I can tell you. When I came in the business, one of the very first tools I bought was a BlackBerry. This was 2001. By the way, I came in the business, my first all-company meeting, Don Rowe was there, was 9/11/01, and I was still an active duty Marine captain. There was a chance I was going to get recalled on active duty in less than 60 days. And none of the behaviors I'm going to talk about this morning changed. I did them all the same anyway. I had at that time I had gone from those 2 or 3 people that were in my BlackBerry that I knew that I could call on the phone and say, hey, it's Dave, and they would know who Dave is. I had already gotten to a little less than 60 by then. 3 years later, I had 8,300 contacts in my phone. Of those 8,300 people, 4 to 5 of those people propelled about 30% of my business growth over the next 20 years.
Oh.
Who knew? But you see, when I said this earlier, Ty Thomas shook her head up and down. Okay? Ty's been around a little while. She knows what I'm talking about. I guarantee if you ask Don Rowe, who's been around a little while, he'd tell you the same thing, right? You don't know which relationships that you're building are going to be the most productive, but you got to build a lot of them, right, Ty? Ty, how
Absolutely,
many people, Ty, how many people do you think told you no your first 3 years in the real estate business?
I think millions.
Yeah.
No.
Here's
a
the
lot.
thing. I don't know Ty really well, but I know her reputation really well. She's a great realtor and she works her behind off. And I can tell you when she says millions, it may not be millions, but it's more than thousands. Okay. So I know the same thing about Don Rowe. Now, I don't know everybody on the call well enough to know that, but what I'm saying to you is these are two very successful agents who have a strong book of business that I think you're going to see them nod their heads up and down as we talk about the rest of this. Okay. Oh, fiddlesticks. Okay. So then the next question becomes, okay, if my number one job every day is to make contact, okay, how do I do it? Well, I'm going to start with the first thing we started with. I put a poll in the field that said, how many hours a day do you prospect? And 70% of us were less than an hour. I put the same poll in the field and said, the most successful agents, how much do you think they prospect? And 86% of us said 2 hours or more. Okay, so what's the difference in the behavior? All right, let's ask Ty and Don. Don, let's start with you. Give me a daily habit you have every day that you've repeated for over 40 years to touch people.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I have a plan for each day, and it does get interrupted from time to time, but I have a certain amount of goal of people I want to contact. And like you said, just say hello, how can I help them? It may be 1 minute conversation or 10. And so I just follow that. And then I send a follow-up note, that type of thing. Just, it's pretty basic, quite frankly. So I just know the fact that the end result is I will find, or I will get referred by someone. That's almost a guarantee if you're consistently contacting people.
And Don, of the people that you contact, how many people every day say, I want to sell a house this year? Very few, right?
Very few.
Very few.
I will say, Dave, though, is that I won't get carried away here like I usually do, but at least I know who I'm talking with, and I can certainly determine how long they've been in their home, that type of thing. So in a nutshell, my personal philosophy, and I'll leave it at that, is that I know that everybody in one way, form, or fashion at some point in time in their life is going to buy or sell real estate.
You just want to be top of mind, right? Now, the other thing is Don's been doing this a long time. So his conversations now are mostly with past clients and customers, but I know for sure his first couple of years in the business, he had to go generate all that from scratch. Now let's ask Ty. Ty,
Yes.
how about you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Every day I plan to prospect at least 2 hours a day. Typically I do, I'm going to say 90 minutes a day, if that much. And most of the time people are saying, well, no, I'm not wanting to do anything right now. And then, I'm just catching up with them and wanting, hey, how are things going? This is a crazy market. And, how are you and your family doing? And blah, blah, blah. And
right.
Normally doesn't produce anything right away, but the majority of my business is from referrals.
Perfect.
Because I try to stay top of mind. Right.
So you've got two very experienced, very successful people telling you this is what they do. Now, the key that most people have a problem with, quite honestly, and let me figure out how to get this for you, all right, is that they don't have the time blocked out. So does everybody know what I mean when I say time blocking? Time blocking is putting on your schedule that. Now, I'm going to see if this will work or not. You all can see my slide, right? You can't see my slide? Oh my goodness.
No. You haven't been sharing the whole time, pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
Except the polls.
Hang on just a second. I am so very sorry. Why can't Tasha, you have me set up as, oh, here we go. Okay. So can everybody see this screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And can you see that screen? It probably didn't share. Hang on just a
It went
minute.
away.
I know this is one of the problems with Zoom. Can you see that screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
that's what my week looks like this week, and next week, and the following 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 week. Okay? So now what I'm going to show you is how do you build that system and how do you get there? So give me just a second. Now everybody has different systems. You all can see this Outlook screen, right?
We can.
But I'm going to use Outlook as an example. If you use Google Calendar, the same thing will apply. Or if you have a proprietary system, that will apply too. But what you want to do is you want to go in, for example, one of the things that Don and Ty said is they start their day with a plan. So you will see here that I have put in the daily 7 as a reminder to go do those key things each day. And I just set that up as a recurring appointment. Now, let's just assume for the sake of argument that all of the sudden, Bobby is my client and she wants to see a house and the only time she can see it is at 8 a.m. on Thursday the 9th. Well, I'm not going to get my daily 7 done in time to do that. So I just grab it and I move it down here. And then I go in and I say, show Bobby a house. Now I've got something here that says make contact calls, 25. I want to make 25 calls from 9 to 10:30 on Monday. That should be a recurring appointment. So in other words, what you do is you go in and you make yourself an appointment that every Monday from 9 to 10:30. Now, here's the key. Everybody on this call, 9 to 10:30 on Monday is not going to work for. Everybody on this call is not good in the morning. Some of you have a sphere that's more active at night. So let's just assume for the sake of argument, because I saw Jeanette shaking her head and I'm hoping that she's shaking it because she's listening to me, that Jeanette's sphere is most active on Monday evenings. So she takes this call and she moves it to 6 p.m. on Mondays. And then she says, you know, that's been a really successful time for me. So I want to go in and I want to make this a recurring appointment, and she makes it repeat. Is everybody following me? Okay, so the point of this, you now can see my making contact slide, is that correct?
We can.
Okay, so the point of this is I've got to block my time, okay? If I don't block my time, here's what's going to happen. Okay. Watch Don and Jeanette's, or Don and Ty and maybe Jeanette, watch their heads go up and down. Someone else is going to schedule your time for you. It's going to be your broker, your customer, the other agent. It's going to be the mortgage lender that wants to bother you for paperwork. It's going to be the closing attorney that wants you to do their job and fill out their forms, right? It's going to be, oh, here's the other thing that happens. Okay, it's going to be you deciding that you want to go get a haircut or you want to go to the grocery or, you know, there's laundry that needs to be done or you need to wash your car or 10,000 other things that are a problem. So I want to give you a visual to help you with this. So let's do some math. Every 25 people that you put into a system that you follow up with over time, over a protracted period of time, every 25 of them will likely eventually turn into a good prospect for you. So if in 2 hours you can make initial contact with 25 people, And if the average number of contacts, which I will tell you it is, the average number of contacts over time that you will make with people that'll produce the results going to be about 7 to 10. So let's use 10. That's 250 touches. And you just heard Don and Ty say, these calls don't take a half an hour. This is another mistake new agents make and inexperienced agents make a lot. They think they're supposed to call and have a half-hour conversation. I'm just checking in. I'm just touching base. I'm just seeing how you're doing. Or, hey, I got tickets to the theater on Thursday. I want to see if you want to join me. Or, hey, I'm going to take some people to the women's basketball game. We'll talk about some of the stuff in a minute. Quick calls, right? So now my 250 calls, okay, let's just assume that they take me on average, okay, 10 minutes. So now I got 2,500 minutes. Well, let's make it 2,400 minutes because the math's easier. Okay. All right. Hell, let's make it 3,000 minutes. 3,000 minutes is 50 hours. If you make $2,500 a transaction average, you're getting a $50 an hour return on making those touches. But here's the big problem people don't realize. If I'm getting $50 an hour to make them, every time I don't pick up the phone, it costs me $2. The 25 calls I didn't make today cost me $50. The 75 I didn't call this week cost me $150. This is not how we think. This is what you got to change. Is everybody with me? Now, the next piece is when you make these calls, after you block your time and everything else comes second, which is why you reschedule the time, you got to be genuine. If you're going to have a business call, tell them. If you're just going to touch base, tell them. But if you're going to just touch base, don't turn around and say, oh, by the way, do you know anybody who wants to sell a house? Because that's a business call. All right? Be genuine. Always ask if it's okay to follow up. You got to know your story. Okay? Ty, what did you do before you went in the real estate business?
I had a ladies' boutique and I worked at the Metropolitan Sewer District.
Okay. And why did you go in the real estate business?
I always wanted to. I just always thought it was a
Okay, so
good
now
business.
I really think the world of Ty, but I'm going to tell her that's not why she went in the real estate business.
And to make money.
Okay, and that's not why you went in the real estate
That's
business.
not about it.
So Ty, are you going to let me make you a little uncomfortable for a second?
Okay, go ahead.
What were you going to do with the money that you weren't doing with the money from MSD?
Improve me and my family's situation.
And were you capped at MSD?
No,
So you could have made as much money as you wanted at MSD.
possibly.
Okay, so you still chose the real estate business. There's another reason why.
Some freedoms. I felt like I had more time choices, more flexibility with my time for my
And what'd you
family.
do with the extra time?
So far, I worked it.
Okay, but who in your life were you going to spend some of that time with?
My family.
Okay, and was that important to you?
Yes,
What age were your children at the time?
very young.
Okay, everybody follow where I'm
Very young.
going? Okay, now Ty, did you ever talk about that with your customers when you were building relationships?
Maybe a little.
Maybe a little,
hmm
okay?
Yeah, I mean, I try to get very well, pretty familiar with my customers. And I try to, my thing is I try to treat them like family. So,
Perfect. Okay, so Ty went into the business to help her family. She treated other people like family. She knew her story. Now, the next thing you got to know is you got to know your market. Now, understand this call is not going to give you all these dialogues because you don't need a script, right? You just need to know what's going on in the market. You need to know your story. But here's what you have to do. You have to be vulnerable. Okay? When you are vulnerable, other people open up. When you are not vulnerable, they don't trust you. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Okay. And then the last step is we got to put them in a system. Now, we're going to go back to one of the things that was said earlier. I don't want a lot of no's. I'm trying to figure out who to talk to, right? I don't want to be wasting time. What I hope we've explained is none of this is a waste of time, because the goal's not transactions. The goal is relationships. The transactions will come. Okay. The other thing is the goal is no's, or at least no, not right nows. The person who gets the most no right nows wins the war. Now, the person who gets the most outright no's doesn't do as well as the person who gets the no right nows, because they're so focused on grinding that they don't build relationships. Is everybody with me? Okay. But if you focus on no right, not right now, and how many of those can you get today? And if not right now, why and when? And I don't care if the answer's in 20 years. Okay, I'm going to give you a dialogue you can use. You can write this down. I'm going to be in this business way past whenever you buy or sell your house. So don't worry about me. This is about you. Don't worry about buying this house. We'll find one. Okay. My job is to help you get what you want, not for you to help me get what I want. I'm here to help you. And you've got to do that with purity of purpose and sincerity. Okay. So if you look at your key business plan, it's how many blocks of those conversations do I have every day? And then it's having these conversations that somebody said earlier, I don't know what to say. All right, I'm going to model a phone call for you. Ty's going to be my person. Ring, ring, ring.
Hello.
Hey, Ty, it's Dave Parks. And to be honest with you, I'm calling you about business. Do you have a minute?
Sure, Dave.
Hey, listen, I'm calling just to let you know I'm really excited. I've affiliated with a new company. I'm making a career change, and I really just wanted to know if it'd be okay for me to stay in contact with you over the next couple of years or decades, hopefully, as I'm building my business. Would that be okay, Ty?
Absolutely, Dave. And good luck with your new business.
Thank you so much. Do you mind if I take about 30 more seconds and make sure I've got the right email address and phone number for you?
Sure.
Great. Can I stay in touch, Ty?
Sure. Certainly.
Is there anything I can do for you in any way? I can take your trash out if you need me to.
Not right now. I'm good. Thank you.
If you need me, you call me, okay?
I certainly will.
I thank you so much for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that?
That's what people want to do. They want to help you.
Can you do that?
Sure.
Did I ask Ty to buy a house? Did I ask her to sell a house? Did I ask her to let me be her realtor? All I said is, can I stay in contact? Okay. And then I'm going to put this in a system. Now, our next call in about 4 weeks is going to be specific steps to farm your sphere and a little bit of a follow on to this where we're going to get into that. But this is the number one thing. So the number one thing you got to do for the next 30 days, just go make a bunch of these calls. And for the Ties and the Dons of the world, just keep doing what you're doing. But if you've fallen off the wagon a little bit, go back and get re-engaged, right? Now, the next piece is, and this is really, really important. What did you talk about last? And I want to tell a quick story about this. So about 20 years ago, I'm at the Prospect Post Office and I'm standing in line and I engage with a guy and we have a conversation and we're just talking a little bit. The line's kind of long and I'm telling him I've been in the Marine Corps and blah, blah, blah. And I came back to the family business and I'm selling real estate. And he said, you know, I'm thinking I'm going to buy a house in the spring. I said, well, would you mind if I stayed in touch? He said, absolutely not. He said, I'll tell you what, call me the first week of May. Now, is that a pretty specific thing? Right? So I did everything I've been trained to do. I went out to my car. I wrote all this information down on, back then I used to use 5x7 index cards. I wrote it all down. I made one mistake. I put the index card above the visor on my car. This is a swear to God true story. Every year back then, I used to have a derby party. So I have my derby party, and the day of the derby, I'm cleaning out my car. And I go to clean out my car and this thing falls out. I go, oh my gosh, look at that. And don't you know, it's the first weekend in May. It's derby day, so I'm going to call him tomorrow. So I sat it on the console of my car. So when I got in the car the next day, I'd call him. And about 11 or 12 o'clock that Sunday, I called him on the phone. And I said, hey, Bill, this is Dave Parks. You probably don't remember me. We met in the Prospect Post Office. He said, oh, Dave, I remember you. You're in the real estate business. You're that Marine guy. I said, yeah, I was just checking in. You told me to check back in early May. And so I was reaching out. He goes, oh God, Dave, I wish you'd called me 2 weeks ago. I bought a house last weekend. Now, I don't know what was going on between when I met him in October and May. And I missed the fatal step. I didn't spend the next 5 months just building a relationship with the guy. I didn't say to him, I didn't send him a note and say, hey, I'd love to follow up sometime in the next couple of months. And May's a pretty specific date, and just explore that with you so that I can keep my eye out for things that might fit your needs as they approach that time frame. Would it be okay if I checked in? I didn't do the follow-on steps. Okay, so what did it cost me not to have that system? Okay, that card not being in the right system, I took all the steps but one. Okay, that card not being in the right system is about a $5,000 mistake.
Mm-hmm.
What's a system cost? I don't know, they range. Outlook's almost free. You can have Office 365 for $6 a month. Okay, I'm gonna introduce you to a couple others, but it doesn't cost that much. You gotta have a system, okay? And what you need to know is the key components of the system. Blocks of time, okay? What did you talk about last? Making sure you know what the next step's gonna be for you and them. By the way, I'm gonna send you these slides. Updating the system. And then in the system, you've gotta have contacts, a calendar, tasks, categories or topics. I really encourage you to have something that can send out campaigns, something that sends you reminders, a way to create reports, and a business plan. Can anybody think of any other things they think their system needs to have? Now, I'm going to show you a slide that gives you some real estate specific systems. But before I do that, let me just show you that you can do everything I just said in Outlook. If you didn't have any other system available, you can do it in Outlook. Give me just a second. So can you all see this screen? So Outlook has a calendar. Okay, it has tasks. Okay. Can you see, are you seeing a calendar?
I can sit down when I wait.
Okay. It has tasks. You can categorize people. Okay. It has a place for contacts. And here's what's interesting about this. I can go into the contact. Can you all still see my screen?
Yep.
And I can open a contact. And let's just say I open this one. And in addition to their information, I can add files. Okay. I can figure out what organization they're in. I can chat with them. I can go into their contact record. And if I go to edit it, I can add notes. Now, it is not the best system for real estate. But in the absence of anything else, just start there. Okay? Start there. If you're a person who likes paper, get yourself a paper planner. Okay, but let me tell you about paper. Paper doesn't remind you. What I love about Outlook and these other systems that I'm going to introduce you to is that they will send you reminders. Okay, now, interestingly enough, the chat question is, what's the best system for real estate agents? And so in our last couple of minutes, I'm going to let you all talk about that. So these are 6 systems that I am somewhat familiar with. I do not use any of them. Okay. Our firm has a proprietary system through Salesforce called Sage, and I'm more familiar with Salesforce than that. Salesforce is another one, but it's not real estate specific. These are all designed for realtors. So does anybody on this call have any experience with Wise Agent, Contactually, RealVolve, Follow Up Boss, or Pipe Drive?
No.
Jeanette is shaking her head. Jeanette, which one are you familiar with?
I'm familiar with Follow Up Boss.
How do you like it?
Yeah, I do. We have I'm affiliated with Seminin, and newer agents have the ability to join the program to get leads through the Seminin site, and we use Follow Up Boss to track those leads.
Okay, so Follow Up Boss, one of the nice things about it is you can build scripts that follow people, right? So like you can have it send an autoresponder.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think I've used that.
Okay, you may not have used that function. Follow Up Boss will let you build autoresponders. Okay, Contactually will do the same thing. But typically what you're doing with it, Jeanette, I imagine, is you're getting the contact in, you're making a follow-up call, you're making notes, and you're scheduling your next task.
Yes.
I will tell you, that to me is the most important part of a system. Ty, what kind of system do you use?
Dave, I'm terrible. I have a couple of systems in place, but for me, my best system is I still use the paper calendar, and I just go through my calendar every day and who do I need to call? And so my system isn't the greatest. And again, it does not remind you. And
okay,
that's where you
so
told
Ty,
Rob,
I'm going to make this call worth its money for you today. I'm going to give you a technique on your paper system you can use.
Okay.
Every time you call somebody from your paper system, I want you to immediately go write their name on the day of the next time you want to call them.
Okay.
And it will become a reminder for you when you open that calendar. Now, I do not think, I will be the first one to tell you, I do not think that is as great a method as a method. What my system, for example, does is it'll send me a text. Call so-and-so. Okay, it's time to follow up with so-and-so. There's a system out there called Top Producer that some people have used over the years. Andrew Pruitt's on the call, and Amy Pruitt are on the call. Andrew and Amy, what do you all use? Have her give her a tour. Andy, Andrew, can you get on volume? Okay, they may be tied up. Does anybody else use a different system than some of those we've talked about?
What about the Buffett system?
The what?
The Buffett system? The
I don't know. I don't know that system.
Okay.
What is that system?
I might be pronouncing it incorrectly, but it basically tells you who to call, and it gives you
You're talking about Buffini.
Buffini, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, so Buffini has a great system.
Yeah.
The only challenge with Buffini's system is it's a little expensive. But if you're going to use his program and follow his system, it's a great system. Here's what I suggest you do at a minimum. Either use the paper system or use Outlook for now if you're not going to invest in something else. But here's the key thing I'm trying to share with you. When you have the call, you need to decide in your own mind, based on that conversation while it's still fresh, when's my next touch going to be and why am I going to have it? And write it somewhere. Okay? Here's the last point I want to make about this. None of this matters if you don't have the discipline to do it and block your time. Okay, you've absolutely got to do that. You can't slapdash this deal. The shotgun approach does not work. Okay, one of the reasons that I've called on some of the agents on the call that I know have a lot of experience is because what I know about people that have been in this business for a long time and been successful is they all might use different methods, but the basic components are the same. They touch a lot of people. They do it over and over again. They're focused on relationships. And even then, the bulk of the growth of their business happens from a couple of handfuls of people that it shoots off from. It's not an evenly distributed deal. That's not the way it works. And what that means is they got a lot of no's. Okay, I want to take just a couple of minutes and see if there are any questions that anybody has relative to this topic. Yes, Frank.
Hey, how often do we reach out and touch these people? Is
Oh,
it
that's a great question.
once a
Thank you.
month?
Okay,
Once
that's a
not
great
every-
question. So the trainers that know more about this than me will tell you, okay, that for the people that are going to be, first thing is until someone is a source, until you know they're either a no or they're going to be a referral source, you're going to be able to build a relationship. Okay, all right. You want some kind of touch about every 30 days in the first month if you don't think they're going to actively engage in the reasonably near future. So for example, if I had a person who came into an open house, I want to touch them today, the next day, 3 days after that, 7 days after that, 9 days after that, 15 days after that, 30 days after that, right? They're more rapid, and then that drags out. You agree with that, Ty? Right? Okay. Now, on the other hand, if there's somebody I'm just trying to build a relationship with, I'm going to touch them every month, but I'm going to touch them in different ways. So I might call them once every 90 days. I might send them a handwritten note on a different interval every 90 days. I might stop by, this is the Buffini method. I might stop by and see them every 90 days. Okay. Somebody else might say, hey, I know I'm never going to stop by and see them, so I'm going to do 45 days. Here's the real key to this. When we do farming your sphere in the next session, we're going to dig deep into this. We're going to spend almost the whole hour on those next touches frequencies. But as a general rule, if they're active in your pipeline, 1 day, the day after, 3 days after that, 7 days after that, 9 days after that, 15 days after that, 30 days after that, 60 days after that, and then every 90 days. If they're not active, you don't have a reason to believe they want to do real estate right now, and you're just trying to build a relationship, touch them in some way every 30 days. And then put them on drip campaigns of value to them. Don't be just sending them, I'm a great realtor stuff. Send them market reports. Send them, updates on what's going on in the market. Send them send them something of value. All right. Nobody cares about seeing a big picture of you saying you sold 7 houses last month. Who cares about that? All right. Other quick questions before we go. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I hope this was helpful for you. We will be sending you the slide deck. Okay. And let me tell you what I always tell everybody. I don't care what firm you're with. Okay. I promise you, you're never, ever going to get recruited by me on a call. It's not going to happen. Okay. But if you ever have a question that you want to do a specific follow-up with today, next year, 10 years from now, feel free to call me and say, hey, Dave, I just wanted to talk about X, or I wanted to run Y by you, or whatever. The only thing I'll tell you is don't ever call me. This happens every once in a while. Somebody will say, my broker said X, and I don't think they're right. Don't call me. Okay. That's not the call. But if you say, hey, look, I'd like to get your input on something, how do I do this or whatever, I'm here for you. And then the other thing is, in about a month, we're going to have a special guest, my buddy, Kevin Trimble. He does happen to be in my company, but the real reason I'm bringing him is Kevin is a person who has built relationships across the country and across the world over the last 30 years. He never met a stranger. He has an incredible sphere of influence, and he did most of it while he was a Marine officer stationed in Afghanistan and Iraq and other places. So if he can figure out how to do it, we ought to be able to figure out how to do it. So he's going to talk to us about farming your sphere. So I hope everybody has a great week and a great year, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.